welcome back to Roleplay Podcast, the one podcast that's actually filmed live because, I don't know, I just decided to do that. Oh my God, I'm joined by my favorite podcast host from the Austin Show podcast. That's what you guys are called, right?
Will
Neff,
definitely.
And also,
hey, what's up, y'all?
The literal blood god, Abe.
Yo, what's up?
Well, welcome. Yo. Welcome. Usually Roleplay Podcast is very GTA RP focused. I wanted to do a fun little episode to discuss Rust Roleplay on the heels of Rust Kingdoms, because that was a lot of roleplay. So I to start this off, I actually have a question I think a lot of people do want to know from both of you. We can talk about all sorts of stuff in Rust and roleplay and people asking for you to stream 10 more minutes so they can get their drop, all the good stuff. But what are the origins of the Blood God?
Oh man, origins of the Blood God. I can jump on that. That's really interesting. So in the very first iteration of Abe's Rust server, I was playing the game with Seer and I was playing the game with Andy Milanakis. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Andy got into a little thing with XQC.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Twitch is fucking golden, boy. Yeah. Yeah, it was a mess, but we were trying to sell pumpkins at a restaurant. That was like our RP that we started with. And we just kept getting robbed. We just kept getting robbed and killed by everybody on the server. They would just come in and destroy us. So we were like kind of listless, and sometimes Seer gets very listless, and I was like, oh, you know what we should do is make a church. And it kind of evolved from there. And the amount of foot traffic the church would get kind of elevated every day. And that was a lot of people's introduction to me as a streamer, was this church where we were like sacrificing people with a chainsaw and lighting people on fire. We made like a sacrifice pit and stuff like that. And it kept growing in popularity until one day Abe revealed himself to us as the Blood God. Like, he put the sheet on and he was flying around, and his RP was so funny as the Blood God, because we would like ask him for things, and it was kind of like the monkey's paw, where I'd be like, I want a helicopter, but he would like drop it on my head, or like I would ask for gunpowder and he would like set us on fire. And it was awesome, and we just kind of rolled with it from there. And this is like I guess the 5th incarnation of it later, and it was awesome.
I was gonna say, Abe, has that made like having a actual like kind of lore behind being an admin, or like being like the admin, or like the god of the server, like having literal lore behind that, does it make it easier to then do stuff in the server?
You know what's funny? I have like 2 other admins on the server that wears the same outfit as me, and they come and help out like when I can't, especially because there are times when like I'm not like super used to being an admin on like Rust, right? So like I think the only 2 times that I've actually played admin was in that first server when the Blood God was first introduced, and then this last server. So like there's a lot of admin commands that I just don't know like how to do. So I have like the other admins like dress up the same way, and they'll like appear and like they'll like like spawn stuff, or like make fire, or like that kind of stuff.
Do you think going forward in the future you'd have like more admins that all just like that run with that like role play of like they're just like the Blood God, and they just go around granting requests or denying them?
Okay, so when these servers happen, I actually plan like a lot of stuff, like a lot of random stuff. So one of the things that was supposed to happen during the Blood Moon event was all of the admins were supposed to come out of vanish mode, and we were all going to wear the Blood God outfit and just fly, just like stay floating in the sky. Or sorry, not during the Blood Moon event, during the final event. So there was supposed to be like 6 admins just like overlooking the entire battlefield at the throne, just kind of like the mentor style. But yeah, it's just it's hard to make everything happen on the fly, especially when there's like lag and like a lot of shit like that.
I'm guessing you guys were
Yeah.
like literally having to like attend to actual server issues as opposed to role playing as the blood gods during that.
Yeah, there was a lot of issues, so we
I
had
think we
to.
limit tested how many backpacks can be in one area on Rust before the server crashes, because there was probably like 2,000 backpacks by the throne by the end of it.
Dude,
It was
because of
littered.
because of the lag, we actually disabled bodies. So imagine all of those backpacks were full on bodies.
Yeah.
Oh, that you because
Like,
and I'm guessing those cause issues because they have like ragdoll physics and you can harvest them. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Then imagine all those corpses just piled up in front of the throne.
I mean, so, honestly, that would have looked sick. I mean, so we have the intro of the blood god. I mean, I'm curious then, to go into a broader thing because I had to get that one out of the way. Roleplay and Rust, I'll tell you guys my honest feeling. I love it. I think it's actually one of the best games for roleplay. I feel like Face Punch has enabled the roleplay in it more. Why is that? Like, why do you guys feel, or maybe you disagree? Maybe no, this isn't the roleplay game. I think it's GTA.
Well, I think for me, the interesting thing is like Rust is a very solid FPS, and that's why people mostly play it. But I think that Face Punch has kind of like a wicked sense of humor, and they've built in a lot of expressive elements that you just wouldn't see in other places. They've made it kind of a pure sandbox, like the ability to paint within it, the ability to upload MIDI or play instruments with your keyboard, the ability to build whatever you want, the electronic system. There's so much freedom within the game to express yourself, and I think that's where like the diversity of RP and like the real meat of the servers comes from, because obviously like it's kind of like the classic adage, like tune in for the violence, stay for the heart. And I think that's what you always get is like new players. They immediately recognize, oh, this is an FPS. I can kill someone with a rock or a stick or a gun. And then they're like, wait a minute, what's this painting doing? Wait a minute, how did Bo make a Pachenko machine in here? Wait a minute, what is this church? Like, what Wobbles is running around singing? There's so many really interesting, expressive elements in the game that allow people to have such freedom. And I think that is the best way to stimulate RP in any game, right? This is the same thing with GTA, is there's so much freedom within that game that it allows for those really interesting, expressive moments that I think help build character and make it these really immersive sandbox experiences.
What are your thoughts, Abe? Because I also feel like, Abe, you've kind of done a mix of maybe more traditional Rust servers, but then also like the big creator servers you hold tend to be more roleplay focused, I would argue.
Honestly, the way that the servers have kind of like evolved is like in the first server, like the first server was literally just a server that I made for my friends because I wanted to play Rust with my friends. I did not think of RP at all. I did not think it would be RP. And the reason why is because I have a lot of hours in Rust, and I think Rust is just a really good game by itself. So I was just like, hey, let's try playing Rust. Let's play it. A lot of people wanted to join. Will ended up being one of those people. Join. A lot of other people joined, and then there was a lot of really funny RP and shit that happened in it. So like that kind of like just like opened the eyes of like, oh wait, there's like a lot of like potential here.
Yeah,
and like sorry for me too, as like a Rust player who has played like regular Rust for like thousands of hours. I think I have like a little over 3,000 hours in the game. Like all of my best moments, I would say most of my best moments in the game were like interacting with other players, like whether it was like a good interaction or a bad interaction. And like all of that is like in a sense like RP.
Yeah, dude, I also think the magic of that first server was no one knew how to play. Like we were all just like, everyone was a fucking noob. And it's so, dude, the fucked up thing, Will, you're talking about the pumpkin shit. I remember because I was part of Team Rocket and we were the ones who like looking attacked and griefed. Yeah, we pillaged, dude. Team Rocket on that first server was like, we truly were the bad guys, but it was like the comical bad guys because like we were so bad at the game. Everyone was so Papega that we just, oh my god.
But that was like the best stuff. I honestly do remember that experience of like spawning into Rust for the first time on the Rust server. And, you know, like I think I got in on like day 3 and I basically begged a friend of a friend to get the message into Abe because I was like I think it was like a, 200, 100 viewer Andy at the time. And I was like, please, Abe, let me do this. And he let me on. And I just remember spawning in with my cock out and I didn't expect that experience, right? I looked down and I just saw a naked man cock and I was like, what is this game, bro? What am I doing? And right from that first moment, I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. This is ridiculous. But yeah, I think Face Punch does a really good job just creating such a limitless experience.
Dude, it's funny you mention that. Abe gives me shit for this all the time because Abe also made my career from that server. Well, that was back when I was still working at Riot.
That's crazy to think.
And I was literally it was on winter vacation. And I was like, well, I'm just going to like try streaming a little bit more and like playing some more games. And
did you still have the flock of seagulls haircut?
No, I did not. Stop. I did not. That was... Okay, I had that haircut for literally, the worst thing is I used to have like really just like kind of like almost like your hair, like really long flowing, like almost like surfer hair. And then I stupidly, like, I think I watched that one Justin Bieber music video. What do you mean? I think it's that one. And I cut the sides of my hair off and then just kept it long on top. And I had that for 1 month. And I happened to do that interview during that month before I cut the rest of it off. And now it like lives on forever.
Well, you look like a very powerful lesbian in that picture.
Thank you. Yeah, I get that a lot. Yeah. So low key, Abe made my career there as well. Damn, dude. That. I will also say this. So Abe, I do owe you for making my career. For me being a cringe role player and then having, I think I'm variety, but I've mostly invested into role play. Will, I don't know if you know this. I owe that to you and Seer.
Really?
You guys are the ones who actually first showed me. I didn't know what roleplay was. I was like a theater kid back in the day. I know people did this fucking shit in video games though, and it was literally, you know what it was? I think it was Seer was one of the first people I ever encountered. It was him doing that one like thing where he's like, "I don't know where I am. I'm scared. Help me,
Shoko." Yeah.
Please help me. Like he was doing that. Like, and I remember being like, what? Like, who the fuck is this guy? Why is he talking like this? And then I remember then, like 2 days later, running into him and you guys were doing your fucking like, preacher fucking voice. Yeah. And I was like, the fuck? Like,
come on, y'all. Come on, you faithful. What's really crazy is I had a very similar experience because I was, at the time I was still like the Groundlings, taking classes and performing. And I went to Coachella, like, I want to say 5-6 years ago. And I went with a group of people and I was staying in a house and it was just like a house full of like, 9-10 people. And I started talking to one of the people in the house in the kitchen and it was Seer's ex girlfriend now at this point, three times removed.
Okay.
And she was like, yeah, I used to date a guy who did improv, but he did it on the internet. And I was like, on the internet? And she was like, yeah, on Twitch. Have you ever heard of it? And I was like, oh, I actually just started doing Twitch. Like, I'm just figuring that out. And she's like, oh, let me show you. And she showed me Seer's first trailer, which was like his like, subscribe nerds. And I was like, what is this? This is really well edited. So I started watching him. And that was during like the prime Uchiha Jones, Mr. Chang Gang.
Yeah.
Duel where like, I watched live when they fought on the bridge, that classic clip of them both getting thrown off the bridge in like an anime fight. And I was like, this is so good. So I was a Seer fan before I knew him as a person. And so the first time I got to RP with him, it was just like, it felt so cool because I was like, oh man, I've been watching this dude for a year. And from a world of like real improv, real, role play, I always had thought that Seer and Burn were probably the two like most talented. They were insane with what they could do within the game, and they always were making me laugh. So it was definitely a surreal moment for me too. The first time I got to sit down and RP with them.
Yeah. I'm so like, and Abe, I'm curious because it feels like when the server started, you were just like, hey, like let's just play Rust. Did people doing like role play and like all the cringe RPers come in make you like how fast did you kind of adapt? Because I remember, wasn't the second server like your very next server was actually kind of divided into like role players versus PvP, right?
Yeah, and funny thing is, I remember specifically initially I didn't okay, so initially when I split the server up between RP and PvP because like the server just got too big and I just couldn't like figure out how to make it so like everyone can enjoy. So that was the reason why I split the server up into RP and PvP. Like I just wanted to like kind of like split and like let everyone do their own thing. And initially I put Will in the PvP server.
Yeah.
Because I just remember thinking like um yeah, I just remember thinking like vibes were like, dude, like this Will guy is a little extreme. Let's put him on the PvP server. No, that's genuinely what I thought. And then I remember Will sent me like a kind of like a message saying like, hey man, like I don't know if you're gonna put me on the RP server, but I really feel like I would be better suited for the RP server. So I was like, okay, you know what, fuck it, let's put him on the RP server.
And it was oh my god, it was Badlands, and what was the RP server called? Do you guys remember this?
Yeah, it was the Divide.
The Divide.
Yeah.
And that was where Rust Vegas started.
That was where Rust Vegas started. And I remember writing that to Abe because Seer had got put on the RP server and I got put on the PvP server. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I'm going to get my fucking ass handed to me. I'm so bad at this video game. Like, I'm going to get. So I think I very closely, like, very close to begging, was like, hey, man. I
did not know.
I remember I was so sad because that, as I said, that first Rust iteration was really the moment for me that broke me. Yeah, that's crazy to say, but like, everybody kind of thinks that I was just put on by Hassan, but I really wasn't. I was kind of like a really unassuming, like, this was not a Mr. Arthur situation where I was like front paged immediately. Like there was a year that I spent, streaming to like 14 people. And then we kind of worked our way out. But that was the first time that a bunch of creators really saw me for the first time. And they were like, oh, he's really fun. So yeah, that Rust Vegas was so fucking funny, man. There were so many good moments, and the police department and the church, their rivalry was so funny. I'm forever grateful that I didn't end up in the Badlands.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm then curious, Abe, because I feel like going forward, and by the way, this is like off the success, for people wondering. I do genuinely think Rust Kingdom. I don't know. I'm personally of the opinion Rust Kingdoms 2, the most recent one, feels like one of your best servers. What was the decision then to be kind of like, hey, let's just mix the like pros and the variety streamers and the cringe role players all together? Because I feel like you've kind of settled on that as like your new mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think after the Divide and the Badlands whole like fiasco, I realized. Well, okay, I'll be completely honest. The Badlands, when I created that server, my thought process was these PvPers are way too sweaty, and I just cannot have them in the same server as everyone else. So I literally threw everybody that wanted to kill people like into the Badlands server. That's kind of just like what it was. And then in my head, I was just like, okay, now I don't have to feel bad about like vetting like all of these like Rust streamers, all these Rust pros. So if they ask to join, I just throw them into the Badlands server. That was like my thought process behind it. But I realized like after that like those two renditions of the server, I realized that like it's actually better to try to like kind of like mix RP and PvP into one server, and just try to have like a balance between the two, because I feel like you can't take away one and have like a successful Rust experience without it, without like both RP and PvP.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's what, like, to speak then to the most recent server, I think you still have what I would consider is like your true, like, kind of, I love that you had whatever, like, Freehold, right? Which was, that was pure RP. It's like, hey, this is where the artists do stuff. This is where people are like testing out new stuff with electricity. They're making cool, like, kind of RP situations. But then I really felt like then, like, the next level up from that was the Church of the Blood God, and then also the Lurklings, where it's like we were kind of role play, like we were role play PvP. Like our role play was to PvP. And then like another level up from that were the kingdoms, where maybe a little bit more PvP focused, but still role play focused as well. Do you, I mean, like, so is that like, do you think that that's the balance that you have going forward, is like pushing more of like what is basically role play PvP?
Yeah, I think roleplay PvP is actually super important, which was primarily the reason. Like, I remember, like, you guys can vouch for this too. Like, I was talking to Will and Blau both, like, initially, because like when I was setting up like the dynamic of the server and like the rules that everyone would play, basically there was three main houses, three main factions or kingdoms, and then two additional groups who were not like official kingdoms, which are supposed to be the church and then the Lurklings. And the Lurklings were kind of like designed to be there as like punching bags, and the church was there to kind of like be the balance between the three kingdoms.
Yep.
Because like we didn't know like if one church or if one kingdom was going to become like way too like powerful compared to the others, and the church was supposed to be there as like kind of like a checks and balances to those like strong kingdoms, so they would like fuck with those kingdoms like in conjunction with like other kingdoms like and whatnot. And the Lurklings would also be there to kind of like help with the balancing, to fuck with kingdoms or join other kingdoms if like one kingdom got too strong. And I think that was like the correct decision to go.
And Abe, you need to just admit this right here. And Will, you also need to hear this. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. The point of the Lurklings, I said this on stream, by the way. The point of the Lurklings is so that variety streamers could farm kills and feel good about themselves and not. Listen.
No, 100%.
Not
100%.
Because listen, the skill difference in Rust is so insane, where it's like if you are you can even be like a good FPS player. Like you could actually be a good gamer. But if you go against Coconut or H-Shun, you are fucked. You are just fucked.
They're just different, bro. And you know what's really interesting, Blau, is like in Rust, I can hang with people till the second tech tree. When we're on bows, I got you. I'll hit those shots like the next guy. When you're on a 6-shot revolver, absolutely, I'm with it. As soon as they get to that AK level, you're dead before you can even breathe with those pros. Like they're so consistent, so good. I think what Abe and I have been talking about, which would be a really interesting idea, is putting all the Rust sweats, except for like the Templars, right? The 2 assigned pros per kingdom. In the Lurklings next time.
Yeah.
And just having an all pro, like basically this is it. Like if you want to play with these normal people, you have to use bows for the rest of the time. You are hard locked.
No. I actually came up with like I do think that's a good idea, but genuinely the Lurklings had so many buffs that if there was even 3 Rust pros like in the Lurklings, I actually think they would have been too OP with bows.
Yeah, I do think I saw clips of like Dakin was able to do some pretty nasty things with the extra healing and with like compound bows. The problem is like a lot of us just weren't good enough to use compound bows. The reality is the Lurklings actually became, it was funny, we became like where newbies would join, because it was actually like a lot easier to play because it's like, hey, you don't have to worry all this complicated like mechanisms, combining sulfur, growing TA. Listen, we're just rock and stone, baby, like and wood, like we just simple prim shit.
You guys were so good in the RP though. The Lurklings were so great, and there were so many funny Lurkling moments that were incredible. Like that big ground war you guys had was so funny.
Dude, I think one of my favorite, and I'm sorry that we did this to the server, but like us starting this like horrible landmine meta was
The Shy Halud.
Yeah, the Shah Halud landmine meta was insane.
So good. Dude, it was so funny because I saw you doing it and I didn't even know that landmines existed in the game. So I reached out to you and I was like, oh, I need to learn. I need to learn the way of Shah Halud. And we had like our little peace meeting and you went off and I had asked you to landmine Dejan Claw. And I thought you didn't do it, but I guess you had done it with L. So I was so pissed. I was messaging in all chat. I was like, I was scammed. We gave them all of our metal and our gunpowder. So I then made 1,000 landmines myself. But what I found out is you and L actually did landmine Dejan Claw. So like both of us landmine Dejan Claw from both sides. And it was literally a cursed lands. I was sent a video every 2 seconds of train wrecks blowing up after a 20-hour stream, and just the vacant look on his face was poetry. It was some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
Dude, I saw so many landmine clips and they're all so freaking funny. Like there was this one clip with Shaggy where he watched who, I think, was it you, Blau, or I don't remember who. Shaggy gives grenades to someone, right? And the person picks up the grenades and runs out of the cave, immediately dies to a landmine. Shaggy screams no, and then Shaggy runs out of the cave and then immediately dies to a landmine as well. It's so funny.
It was me, and it was I think it was when I don't know. I think it was when the Pogarians were attacked. Like, yeah. So, Will, for context, what started it all was we finally got it. Like, okay, I will listen, Abe. I know. I think in some context the buffs are crazy, but even when we had the 2x health, Will, there was this moment where like the actual full like Pogarians came and attacked the Lurklings, right? And they're in full armor, AKs. They are up on rocks, like it from Narnia, shooting us, and like I am shooting bows at them, and by the time my arrow has hit them, like I've already fucking retired from Twitch. My grandchildren are screaming on Kick 2.0, like and they are just camping us and killing us. And so as revenge for that, that's where we started this arc where we just landmined the entire north and then developed a way to walk through it. But yeah, I think in the heat of combat, sometimes I would forget that there were landmines. And there was a moment where I woke up, Shaggy throws me a grenade, I run, immediately just die.
That's awesome.
My favorite, I still to this day though, my favorite moment from all of Rust from Rust Kingdoms was then when Dejan Claw, because we betrayed them with the marriage. And by the way, one of the things I really appreciate, Abe, is we'll talk about this in a second, but Rust pros who knew to enable RP. Dude, Coconut literally messaging me and was like, hey, can we just destroy your fucking shitty wood base? And I was like, yes, dude, Foundation. Like he DM'd me on Discord. I said, hey, Foundation wipe us, fuck us up. Coconut does this whole speech coming in and we're fucked. They just go and destroy our entire, like we're absolutely fucked. And then all of a sudden my chat was like going crazy. They're all spamming like, oh my God, H-Tune's here. The Pogarians come, they start shooting at all of Dejan Claw, and all of them are like, well, why the fuck are we continuing this raid? Because all we're going to get is fucking stones and wood. They don't have shit. So they all retreat, and all of Dejan Claw retreats through our minefield and just all die to it. It was, which actually brings me to a question to you guys. Your favorite moment from Rust Kingdoms. Well, if you had to pick one.
Dude. Abe, you want to jump on this one first? I think I know mine.
My favorite moment, I don't know. It's kind of a hard one.
For me, I'll jump on it first and let you meditate. So for Rust Kingdoms 1, Abe and I were kicking around an idea kind of late in the process that we would have a skin or skins available for people that weren't in the initial launch, right? Not the marquee streamers, but like people who play Rust or really differentiate themselves in how they played on our server. And we got to it too late in the process. So when we started Rust Kingdoms 2, it was one of the first things that we had a pin in was like, can we make this happen? Can we have skin drops as a reward for people within the game? And I think that the arena and the concert and having those rewards built in for people who were just gutting it out and working hard and having these moments for them where, you know, they're making more money, they're getting fresh eyes on their content, which is ultimately like part of the spirit of what made me fall in love with this. Is like, this is the game that I was discovered playing, and I wanted to create that experience potentially for other people. So for me, that, but more specifically, you know, Wobbles at the concert, you know, talking about how because of this Rust wipe, he's debt free now. And that was a lot for me, because I think as I get older, I get more empathetic, and I think you can get really jaded on Twitch. You know, it seems like just a money simulator, or, you know, I'm just making Big Macs here. I'm just making trash every day, and I hope that people enjoy it. And it's hard to do anything that I think is really meaningful. But that moment felt very meaningful for me, and I started crying. And you know, I had to get him on ban for showing his ass crack on Twitch. You know, say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Abe and Will getting Wobbles on banned in 2024, 2022.
Dude,
Wait,
I was
you guys had
talking
to get him on
Wobbles.
ban before?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
wait, hold on, wait. Okay, Will, actually, I'll let Will take this, but Will, can you talk about the entire lore behind Wobbles and like the servers and everything?
Yeah. So Blau, you've never heard this. So I guess 2 or 3 servers ago, Wobbles found me because he had been watching the church and he wanted to RP with the church. So yeah, I think this was 3 years ago. So he came up and he was like, just started doing music, started doing blood god music. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? What is happening? And I was having so much fun with him. But apparently, Wobbles had been banned from Twitch at this point, correct? And he had been banned indefinitely. And at this point, he had served, I think, 5 years of his ban. Don't quote me on this, but I think Wobbles had been banned for 5 years. And the reason being is Wobbles had a very aggressive stalker who had done things like dox his parents, dox him, dox his loved ones, send very aggressive, like murder mail, really crazy stuff. So Wobbles made a song, and don't quote me, but I think the name of the song was "Why Don't You Go Fucking Kill Yourself" or something like that. But it was about this stalker, but it was like, it was clearly like a Lonely Island style satirical song about this guy who had been making his life horrible. Anyway, Twitch has a very strict no tolerance policy on things like that. And so Wobbles was banned indefinitely. So he had served 5 years of this indefinite ban, and Twitch kind of had forgotten that he existed at all. But because of the Rust server and kind of like this, people getting their first eyes on Wobbles and him interacting with big streamers, his YouTube had started to like skyrocket. And his YouTube live had started to skyrocket. And I think during the server, he had like a 1 million view video. And then this drove Twitch's attention back to Wobbles. So Twitch then was like, oh, this guy was banned half a decade ago. We can't have people interacting with him. We have a very strict zero tolerance policy about this. So people in the Blood Church, Seer, myself, I forget who else at that point. I think it was like Myth and Spaceboy.
I remember Spaceboy was part of it, yeah.
Yeah. We were sent emails, and the emails said, do not interact with Mr. Wobbles. He is banned. We cannot tell you to kick him off the Rust server because it's out of Twitch. But if you feature him while playing the game on Twitch, you will be banned as well. And so a great shunning occurred where players just stopped interacting with Mr. Wobbles, but no one told him that he was like a persona non grata. No one told him.
And you probably didn't know why, because Twitch isn't going to tell you why he was banned.
Exactly.
They're like, hey, and you guys are all thinking like, oh, this guy's been like, oh, he did some fucked up shit.
And this was day 4 of the server. So like he had been streaming with us for days, like probably 72 hours up until that point, because we were on DGen time. And all of a sudden people like stopped talking to him and no one had told him. So I was the one who went up to Wobbles and I muted my game and I looked down at the ground and I was the one who told Wobbles, I was like, hey man, I just want to let you know, because I don't think anybody has informed you. Twitch sent out a very harshly worded email that we cannot interact with you. And you've been banned for this period of time. And I'm pretty sure that's when Wobbles told me about like the song. And I was like, oh, that's really fucked up. But we had this like 20-minute conversation where my stream was totally muted and I'm looking at my feet. So I don't even show his character name. Anyway, at the end of this, Wobbles tearfully says goodbye and logs off. And he's like, I don't want to fucking make shit up. And I was like, God, that was brutal. And I was like, all right, everybody, you know, I just told Wobbles why we can't play with him. If you want to go watch Wobbles, he's on YouTube. Here's the link. Twitch said that I enabled ban evasion up until that point.
Wait, what?
Even though no one had told him. So I get banned. And at this point, thermonuclear. I like anybody who will listen to me, I'm like, this is so fucked up. How can you? So I get banned for, I think 72 hours. I think I get banned for 3 days. And I am going so nuclear, and I'm going nuclear to my partner manager at the time, Pluto, who's a great guy. And Pluto kind of tracks this back and is like, damn, he caught a lifetime ban for this. So the wheels start spinning. And 10 hours later, MrWobbles is on banned because they track back his case and they're like, this was so draconian. So Wobbles gets on banned, but I have to serve the full 72-hour ban while I have a skin. And they're like, sorry, man, we can't do anything about that. That's ban evasion. And I was like, what the fuck? so I had to eat a ban while Wobbles was made free. And it was such a funny thing. But yeah, I'm so glad I did, because Wobbles has ended up being such an incredible part of the Rust legacy, and his content has been, you know, loved by so many. And any audience that bumps into him, including Kai's audience, there's always like, if you watch the chats, it's so great to watch this moment of like, what the fuck? Who's this guy? And yeah, it's, you know, that's at the end of the day, I think that is what gratifies Abe and I the most about our servers at this point, is like people finding these creators for the first time and just having a love affair and seeing the light go on when they go and find a bee and her art, or when they go and look at Box and his incredible aptitude to do these unbelievable electronic moments in the game, or Wobbles making music, or H. June being able to sing. What the fuck? When did that, huh? He's tall, he's hot, he plays Rust, and he can sing. No fair. That's
okay.
Bullshit.
I also have something else, and Abe knows I will say this about H-Jun. And this is gonna seem a little unfair. I don't know how much you got to like role play with him. I was telling, because I ended up role playing with him a lot because he was like the lead sort of knight of the Pogarians. I genuinely believe H-Jun's like one of the best role players. I think he would clear 99% of NoPixel if he went and role played there. Like, he's actually really good at role play. Like he like, I don't know. He's insane.
Yeah.
I did not know that lore of MrWobbles.
Mm-hmm.
That is why, I mean,
yeah, that's why when he got banned this time around, I literally messaged him while I was like scrambling with Will to like message like all of our contacts at Twitch to try to get him unbanned. I literally messaged Wobbles. I'm like, bro, how we've come full circle.
Bro, he was probably so traumatized by that, which is funny. By the way, I've shown my, like, do you know, Wobbles, if you ever see this clip, if you want, I will send you, I have a empty vial of insulin, because I can't send you a full vial because that shit's expensive, and I'll send you a insulin pump, put it on your ass, and then you can show your ass on Twitch. It's educational now. I show my ass. I show my ass all the time when I'm switching out my insulin pump.
Smart.
Yeah. I mean, but to Twitch's credit, I mean, you know, that was what you guys were saying. It's like 8 years ago, right? I mean, their, policies around banning people have gotten way better. They're very consistent.
I
now,
think almost 9 years ago now, because this was in January of 2021.
Yeah, they don't have any controversies around like who they ban or don't ban, so they're chilling.
Honestly, I think it's one of those things where they had banned him and thrown away the key and totally forgotten he existed. And under their new policies, when they were reminded that this guy had, served his time, they were like, oh yeah, this was kind of intense what we did to him.
Abe, have you ever been banned on Twitch?
No, I've never been banned on Twitch.
Was that your only time, Will?
I don't even think I've ever gotten a warning.
No, I've gotten banned a few times.
Oh, okay. You don't have to share. Well, haven't you? You've gotten banned because you've like watched stuff that you weren't like.
Yeah, I got banned one time. This was really strange. I watched a Samurai Jack trailer, and I paused on it for too long because I was talking about contrast in a frame when I was doing a film class, and there's an episode where Samurai Jack dresses in all white and fights a ninja in all black, but I wasn't actually watching the show. I was just watching a trailer. But apparently they had some kind of auto screening process where if you had watched X number of their minutes of their content, it just auto sent a form that, got mad at you or whatever. So I got clapped for that and a few others like those, but a little bit more egregious. That was the one that I shouldn't have been banned for. I think I've been banned 4 times.
By the way, for Samurai Jack. What did you think of what is it technically the second season, the one they did all those years later? What did you think of it, honestly?
The story on that is so incredible, right? Like Samurai Jack, if you looked at the show page, it was never canceled. And so the legend among fans was like, well, we're going to get another season one day. We're going to get it. And it was kind of like almost a meme. And then they announced like, oh yeah, we're going to finish this story. And I think a lot of the fans weren't ready for how dark the end of Samurai Jack would be. But it's one of those rare intellectual properties where like the age of the show was appropriate and grew in like to the age of the audience. Like it was interesting to have this adult take on Samurai Jack and to finish this story and kind of give this moment of like, did you really get what you wanted? Like, did you get all you wished for, Samurai Jack? Because I don't want to give anything away, but Samurai Jack has to make a fantastic sacrifice at the end of the show. It was fantastic. I think it's one of the best final seasons of a show ever.
Dude, I actually saw that on TikTok. I saw like almost all of it on TikTok, and I was like,
yeah.
I was genuinely like, wait, is this like actually like real? Because this is fucking like incredible. Like, but like I don't remember this from my childhood.
Yeah,
well, it was because like originally, I remember watching it as a kid, and to me, and I didn't know this at the time. Like even looking back on it, you can look back on the original Samurai Jack and be like, oh, this is really well done. But like as a kid, you're like, dope fight scenes. Samurai blows up all these robots. Really cool. Each episode he fights these new and it was kind of surface level. And then you're right, like in that final season, they just added in things that just would not have been in a kid's show because they were like, hey, the audience is now grown up 15 years from watching this.
Yeah. Well, by the way, if you like Samurai Jack, I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this. Have you watched any of Gendry Tartakovsky's other stuff?
No.
Okay. Do yourself a favor and go watch Primal. Primal was the show that he made right before they finished Samurai Jack. And it's a 2-season non-verbal story about a caveman. And it's maybe the best cartoon of all time. Insane.
I'll check that out. It is interesting. There's like the other cartoon. I started watching some of the Gundam series again.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what was crazy? I remember I was like, there's like a few kind of animes.
Would you watch Gundam Wing?
Yeah, Gundam Wing was dude. It is crazy to me that Gundam Wing was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
The themes in that, it's literally like a theme of like, bro, there's like they talk about like suicide bombing all the time.
Well, Gundam was always like the nerdy, like geopolitical show. You know what I mean? Like the mobile suits were just kind of a vehicle to talk about interesting geopolitical politics, and like they really get into that as opposed to like like a Megazord where it's like, this is a giant robot that fights monsters.
Right. And it's like they don't really like, as a kid, I never fully understood what it meant that Project Meteor and Gundam. This isn't even by the way, not even a spoiler, because it's literally announced like in the very first episode that Project Meteor. For some reason I was like, yeah, Project Meteor, let's send the Gundams to Earth. And I was like, no. Project Meteor is let's drop a space colony on Earth that will like cause the Earth to be uninhabitable, and then use the Gundams to then control Earth after we've fucked everything. I was like, holy shit, that was a kid show? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, so this is really interesting, but I think that timeline of Cartoon Network and early Adult Swim and Toonami was really interesting, because I think the United States had a view of cartoons where it was like, this is exclusively for children. There is no such thing as an adult cartoon, where Japan didn't really have that sensibility at all. And Cartoon Network bought these 10-year-old, animes very inexpensively. And we're like, let's see if there's an audience for these in America beyond, people going and buying DVDs and VHSs at like a Sam Goody because they're weebs, giga weebs. So this was like a lot of, people's first experience with anime or cartoons. Oh, my camera died. Ultimately, I think a lot of those moments were like so interesting, because I remember I watched Cowboy Bebop for the first time at like 10 years old, and it was like, what the fuck? Hey, full story, full circle moment though. That's really interesting is I was so influenced by those anime and cartoons that is, part of what took me into the performance world. And 5 days ago, I had my very first voice acting cartoon premiere on Adult Swim.
Congratulations on that. Which
yeah,
is sick.
yeah.
I haven't gotten to watch yet.
Oh, hey, watch at your leisure. But that was
will.
definitely a full circle moment for me, where I was like, damn, like that's another bucket list item right there. And it was really cool to go watch it. I watched it at a place called El Cid in Silver Lake. They had a premiere party, and I was like, holy shit. I was there with Blake Anderson from, Workaholics. And
yeah,
it was definitely a surreal moment.
I still had other questions to go through. Will, beyond, it's kind of, sorry, that's just kind of crazy for you, because I remember when you tweeted out that you were in that, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, Will's on Cartoon Network? Like,
yeah.
This was for you. So, for Abe, I was gonna ask you, like, what's next for you in the Rust world? Like, I mean, obviously you don't have, if it's, you don't want to leak it, you don't have to leak it. But if you have any teasers or stuff, like, what do you want to do next with Rust? Do you want to do more? Do you want to go down the path of more role play? Do you want to keep it this PvP and role play mix? Like, what do you think is like the future for? Because I feel like your servers are synonymous with role play.
Yeah, I mean, so if there are any like Rust enjoyers in like in chat or watching this video or wherever it goes up.
Oh, wait, pause. Abe, Thank you so much, because I'm supposed to shout wherever it goes up, Abe, that's right, on all podcasting platforms. We are actually a legitimate podcast, just like Fear but not nearly as big. But we actually literally are on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the regular podcasting channels. Thank you guys so much. Okay, continue, Abe. Sorry.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is, like, if you've consumed any Rust content like on like YouTube, like all of the best Rust content, like hands down, are content that has like a storyline behind it. And I feel like the thing that we've been kind of like gearing towards on our servers is that like most of the PvP, there's PvP. It's pretty good PvP, I would say, for Rust. But there's like a storyline behind it. There's like a plot behind it. There's like a reason behind it. Especially like on this past server, most of the PvP had some sort of reason for the PvP to happen. And because I think like most of the best Rust content on like YouTube are storyline driven PvP, I think that's the direction that I definitely want to like go down. Like I think this past server was like a very good stepping stone for the potential that we have with combining RP and PvP in the future.
By the way, I got to give Abe credit. Abe has constantly inspired me with his work ethic and how much he puts into these servers. And when we got done with the server, I was wiped, bro. I had nothing left in the tank. I was like, I'm going to go sleep
Same.
for 72 hours. I'm still in my pajamas right now. Abe messages me before the server is even cold. There are people still doing their farewells. And this man messaged me on Discord. So, Rust Kingdoms 3? And I was like, you're a fucking madman, bro. He was
Dude.
ready to start planning already.
Bro, leaked.
Actually,
But I mean,
Wait.
just in case, I do think that that's one thing that I wish we could get more just Abe in general in the server, because getting to know him behind the scenes, like this dude gives everything to these projects, and it's so like this doesn't exist, you know, like some of the biggest moments in games now don't exist without Abe just being an absolute workhorse. And it's been awesome getting to just spend time with him and work on these things.
well, I was saying, like, in a world where, like, I feel like Cutie and Lud kind of like lead these like IRL events for creators. I feel like Abe is kind of like the one leading the like gaming events, right? Because I mean, Abe, you also do like
100%.
your Minecraft servers as well, but these Rust servers are always like a definitive moment, you know, within the year. Abe, can I I mean, I don't know if you're gonna do it, but can I tell people about the thing that I want you to do?
What? That's so ambiguous. What?
I don't care. You know what? Will already leaked shit. I don't care. Because I was
Okay.
gonna be, listen.
Wait,
Will,
all I leaked was that he said he wants to work on the third one. That's
no. Okay, listen. After doing the Lurklings RP and doing Prim RP, and hear me out. I don't think you would do this for a 10-day wipe. I think it would be a shorter. I think it would be a shorter. I'm talking 3, maybe 4 days. I want to do a Prim Rust roleplay server. Like I want Abe to do one where it's like 3 or 4 days and it's purely bows and arrows, swords, like knights, like I'm at archers up on the wall, fucking like I would love like a pure medieval. But again, I don't think you do it for like 10 days. I think it'd have to be like a little short, like Rust Kingdoms 2.5, you know?
Yeah. We had an idea that I would love to see if we could do it at one point, but
Wait,
there's a version of
they're adding catapults?
Yeah.
that's insane. There's a version of Rust called Terminus where you can't farm any resources. You have to find everything. And I think doing a like 48-hour hardcore Hunger Games Terminus server where like everybody only has one life. You all spawn in at the same time and there can only be one person alive at the end, and we have some kind of giant prize for that person. And basically it becomes like Hunger Games, it becomes, you know, Battle Royale, where like use your social game, try and become partners with people, but know at the end there can only be one. So any alliance you make will inevitably fall apart. I think something like that is almost like a social experiment marathon stream would be crazy.
Dude, I would love to see stuff like that, Abe.
Yeah.
I actually love that idea like a lot, because that's going to be like it's like one of those, like it has to be like there has to be an objective where like the prize pool is like crazy, or like or just something where if you kill someone on that server, you're like, especially in the beginning, you're immediately like, oh, this guy is fucked.
Yeah.
But I love that concept and idea.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's like opportunities for like in between your really big, like the big 10-day servers. I feel like there's opportunities for you to do like kind of like smaller, like 48 hours, 3-day, like kind of like mini events. I just want to,
Yeah.
I want to do medieval role play again, man. Like I would love if everyone was Prim and we're all like in like fucking knight armor. Dude, they're adding in catapults, man, and shields. That sounds sick.
Yeah, they're adding catapults and shield. I think it's going to be it's gonna be crazy good for like RP and just like the gameplay in general. Going back to what you said about like the future of the servers and stuff too, I think Rust as a game just has so much potential, right? And the way that it can be played, and like just the fact that it's like moddable, it's a full sandbox game. I for the next rendition, I want to create like a kind of like a class system, where the game kind of like shows a little bit of like an MMORPG fantasy like aspect. I think something like that would be really cool.
Yeah, I remember you telling us about the fantasy stuff and like how like kind of like playing around with Lurklings buffs inspired that. Are either of you guys this is my other idea for one of your servers for next year. Are either of you guys fans of Mad Max?
Yes.
Okay, hear me out. Like with the new motorcycles and already like the theming of Rust is kind of like dystopian, like kind of gritty and Rust. Like, dude, imagine an all like desert map, right? And again, you can like maybe change it so that whatever nodes you need for other things. Imagine an all desert map and like the bases are like these kind of rusty metally fucking bases, like fucking
gasoline.
Bullet Town and shit. And like and now it's like people actually care less for Scott. The biggest resource is fuel to fuel your like fucking cars and motorcycles to make it across the wasteland. And it's just a giant fucking desert and it's like Mad Max themed. You'll probably have some people doing some like Dune RP off in the fucking, we're gonna fucking Shah-Halud again with fucking mines. Like, please give me a Mad Max desert map, Abe. Abe?
Yeah, I want every server to be like kind of like themed.
Yeah. Do not become addicted to water.
Oh my God, dude, that'd be so sick.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I just feel like and this is a question I have for you guys. This is something I have now formulated after now playing on this server. I think, Abe, your Rust servers do a better job for roleplay than even some of the biggest GTA servers, which I think could learn from your servers because they have like set timelines and story. Like, and what I mean by this is like Rust Kingdoms, we know the server is 10 days. There are arcs that build throughout. There's like short daily arcs. There's a broader like story arc, but they have like a start and an end. And we talked about like role play behind the violence. I'm going to be honest. I can tell you why every single war in GTA between the gangs in GTA start. Okay. It's someone in a gang disrespects someone else in another gang. And then they go to war over, and it's always the same shit. And one of the problems is because like those servers are persistent. They're on, instead of day 10, they're on day like 280. Yeah. And so my question is like, what then is the next evolution of Rust? And do you think you can ever do you think there could ever be a persistent server? Do you think it's better that it's like has these definitive timelines?
Well, I think the definitive timelines are good. I ultimately think that is part of the problem with GTA RP. I will admit that. And I think because there is an indefinite timeline there, they have to add like infinite grind to add content, right? Like if you gave everybody everything day 3 on GTA, they'd burn out. Which is why you have to add these like really long grind arcs to do stuff like that. And I think that really hurts. And I think the limited timeline basically puts everything in like this like superconductor where also it allows the RPer to be like, okay, 10 days, I got to be on. I got to be doing 10 hours a day because that's when the action is happening. With RP, you could miss things if you're not on for a day or two. And I think that when you allow people to be like, okay, you're going to devote 10 days to this and then it's over, there's an end in sight. So they feel like they can really dig into a plot line here and now, as opposed to letting it go on forever. Also, I love the events. Dude, like that last event, we thought about it, and that last event for the throne was fucking unbelievable. It was, dude, half the time I wasn't even playing. I was just sitting there watching how unbelievably cinematic this ridiculous like build to climax we had created was, because everybody had stockpiled and stockpiled and stockpiled, and now it was like dump everything, leave nothing for tomorrow, Calibrimbor, because this is the end times. And seeing that played out was awesome. And seeing, I talked to Abe was like, how long do you want it to be? And he was like, an hour. And I was like, no, 3 hours because by the end, I think people just running at people with rocks and, you know, throwing like jackhammers, just having nothing left, exhausted is going to be fucking incredible. And it was awesome. It was so fun.
Abe, the end was a buff for the Lurklings because everyone didn't have shit, but we still had our basic bows plus the health, so we could I was actually killing people near the end. Abe, how did you cook up the ending? Like how'd you design that?
Wait, before that, going back to what you were asking before, like I think having a definitive timeline is actually so important for these servers. And it's also like a way for me to measure like if the server was like successful or not. If like the players and the people that are playing on the server want more even after 10 days, then that tells me that like, oh, we did a good job with the server.
I was gonna say, but and I wanted to answer how you did that last event, but I will say this: I don't think I would have. I think I would wish I had like one more day on the server, but it's like I wish I had like a break day because I never got to like go through like and really experience all of like Freehold Keep stuff. But like, man, I feel like that 10 days was money. That was it. I feel like I was spent after all of that. What would you? So yeah, how'd you come up with this last event? What was the design inspiration behind it?
So initially the server was like when I was like trying to think of like a name for the server and like a theme for the server, the first name that I came up with was it was supposed to be called Rust Kingdom's Rise of the Blood Moon. And that was because I was just like so in love with this idea of like having a blood moon and the fact that we were able to like make it happen and have like zombies spawn and while like you see like the red moon in the night sky. I was like, oh dude, this is so like cinema. Like this got me sick. But then I thought about it and I felt like the name of the server had to be something where it kind of like leads up to it. The plot leads up to it. Because like with the blood moon event and everything happening, like we can't really like that's not really the theme of the server, right? It's a cool event, but like it doesn't really mean anything else to like the server. So I was like, let's make it like Game of Thrones style. Let's put an empty throne, let's make a fight for it, and you know, let's just have the server end be a fight for the throne somehow. So that's when we changed the name to Rust Kingdom's The Empty Throne.
My favorite thing, by the way, about it, and I don't know how much you knew about like what the final event would be, Will, but we scouted the throne and I tried to build in that area and I realized you couldn't build there. I was like, oh, maybe he'll unlock building like on the last, and then I looked around the throne and I saw that there's all of these rock formations, like just tons of them around, and I was like, oh my god. There's not going to be building. He already put in like pre-built like cover, which are all these rocks around here, so that the final fight's going to be no build, which made it so. It was like playing Fortnite no build. Dude, I didn't have to worry about like breaking through fucking this wall, then break soft side under this wall. Like,
No, so yeah, I did know about the last event because I kind of campaigned hard for it. I wanted to have a dump all the resources moment, but I always felt as though raiding is so fun if you know what you're doing. But for those people who are more casual, it's very difficult and it's so resource demanding, and to have all the kingdoms, it turns into chaos. So I really wanted to have a no build final fight King of the Hill over 1 point. And Abe created the idea of sitting in the throne, which I fucking loved. And that's kind of where like the empty throne came from. But I loved the final event, dude. Just the one person sitting in the throne, just knowing they were about to be shot in the head.
Did you guys see Leslie's POV?
no.
There was a clip of Leslie. She sat on the throne. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm on the throne!" And then like someone just walks up and just shoots her in the head.
Dude, so good.
And I know Abe saw. I don't know, Will, if you saw. We had these like charges from the Lurklings where we'd throw smoke grenades for us to go to finally touch the throne.
Yeah,
and we'd get there and we couldn't, because it's hard coded, right? So we couldn't touch the throne, but we'd be there like, fuck, I can't sit on it. It was, oh my god.
So good.
That ending was amazing. Again, it is role play, but I'm sort of talking about like rating and stuff. Abe, how do you balance like because you have actually balanced these servers. Like you took gun damage down. What are other ways you want to balance the servers to make them kind of more oriented to role play, but also like it's not like role play, but also newer players. But and then there's a chain question, so you have to answer a lot of things. One thing I've noticed is isn't Rust rating balanced around the fact that you're typically rating people offline or rating people when they're severely outnumbered? So like, how do you balance those things?
Balancing wise, so the reason why like I love working with Will is because he's so in tune with like being like a player, and he knows like the experience of like an RPer. But Will also he just like is always down to like get on call and just like talk about shit. So that's like a plus. But Will knows what it's like to be a player with RP. So whenever I have like any like like ideas or like questioning regarding PvP and balance, which is one of my main objectives with these servers, I just talked to Will about it, and I think Will just thinks about it in his like perspective as like an RP or as a player, and we just go off of that for balancing. What was the second part of the question?
Oh, it was actually about raids. Like I there's a world where I'm like, yo, what if you just made it so that like you could just hear me? And maybe this would piss people off. I actually think there's a version of these servers in the future where walls are actually easily raidable, or like where like bases are actually super easily raidable, and like almost ephemeral. Like a fucking rocket just fucking will blow up like a whole side of a base. There's a cool
the problem
version
with
of that.
the problem with rating in this game, and the reason why like I try to limit it so much, is because in a game like Rust, where like one of the primary objectives is to get loot and bring it back to your base, losing that loot, even if it doesn't mean anything to you, is just like a really bad feeling. And it's a feeling that's like bad enough that a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, after losing everything, losing their base, will want to not play anymore.
Yeah, I have noticed, like I feel like in a lot of the recent Rust servers, it's pretty rare that a full on base will be lost. And like even when I think DGen Claw was raiding people, like kind of like chain raiding, they only would raid like one base and then leave. Like they wouldn't like fully like foundation wipe people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the checks and balances that we have on the server, which is like when I let like a Rust pro on the server, right? I tell them beforehand, and I also put in like the announcements and stuff too, like, hey, like be self-aware. Like you're not on the public server, you're literally on a server full of content creators. Like almost everybody else on the server is a content creator, so you have to be considerate to like other people's like content as well as like your own. So if you're going to be going like full PvP warlord, full on raiding, then like the server is probably not for you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I did like the addition of the Rust pros for each group, and
yes. That was one thing we formulated. Abe and I knew that we had a problem of balance, right? Where essentially every one of those pros is a insane feather in the cap of whatever leadership they are proselytized to. And so right from the beginning, we made the decision where we're like, we can help balance this a little bit if we take a handful of the most capable pros and take that kind of randomness or, chance out of it and just assign them, and they would be gladiators. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions we made going into this server, because day one, every one of the leaders just had a leadership base to, capable hands in which they could, if they had a dream, they could try, I could turn to Frost and be like, is this doable? Is this something we could, and honestly, the other person I want to give insane credit to is Blueprint. Because Blueprint, without him at Dejan Claw, there would have been such a vacuum of leadership, or not Dejan Claw, War Conan. And ultimately War Conan ends up winning the whole shebang.
Was beautiful. I loved
that because of Blueprint's leadership. So, I mean, insane shout out to Blueprint for picking up the mantle and just running with it in kind of that vacuum of leadership.
Right. And didn't War Conan, like
they won
in the end, they also got all of the people of like Freehold's Keep to come and join them.
Yeah.
And they did it through like, I don't think anyone thought they were the strongest. And then all of a sudden
they RP'd it out though.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think splitting up or at least like splitting up a good handful of the Rust pros in the very beginning and assigning Rust pros to essentially like babysit a lot of these like big streamers was like the correct and best decision that we probably made. So like the balance, especially in the beginner server, was just like, I think it was just like perfect. Obviously, where Conan had a bit of uh an issue with leadership because they literally had none of the leaders that they were supposed to babysit online. So that was definitely an issue. But yeah, like Will said, Blueprint like held it down. And I think they still had a good time.
Yeah.
Speaking of balance and stuff, I've been cooking this up like because I've been spectating this entire server and not playing as a player. So you guys should see my notes. I have so many notes and ideas written down.
Well, yeah, share some right here. Leak them.
I have one idea for balancing for the next server because I feel like one of the issues is that like even though we pre-assign like a good handful of Rust players, there's still like 30, 40 like Rust players that are not like assigned to a group that are on the server, right? So we will come into an issue where like, like there is a chance that like one group decides to like try to like grab as many Rust pros as possible to like, like increase their strength, especially if they feel like they're like getting fucked by like other groups. Which is kind of like what we saw happen with Degen Claw, right? I think the system that I want to come up with for the next rendition is, so you know how like we did like an invite system and like a max kingdom size system.
Yeah, based
And
off the skulls.
Yeah, and then you can increase it based on like objectives you do with your kingdom. I love that idea. The problem was that like a set number of people in one kingdom doesn't like equate to like strength, right? If you have like a kingdom like 10 people maximum and they're all Rust pros, you're gonna be like overpowering like even a group of like 20 people of no Rust pro.
Yeah, like I'm imagining you have like Coconut, like H-June, Blueprint. Like if you had those three on a team, like what do you do, right? Like
Yeah. So basically, what I'm planning to do is like I want to, instead of like a set number of people per like group or per kingdom, I want to create like a kind of like a sports like salary cap system where every player gets predetermined, and obviously a lot of things get factored in, like hours they have in Rust, like their grind time, like all that kind of stuff. I want to create a salary system where we predetermine like a salary per player, right? So like if you have like your Coconut or H-June, like they would be like max salary, like most Rust pros will be like max salary. And then you have someone like Will who can't PvP for shit, but he's a grinder. We probably give him like a 2 or like a 2 out of 10, So like he's still like highly valuable because he plays a lot and he
would I get a 3 out of 10?
You would get like a 2 as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would have to be like higher. It would have to be something more than 10, like probably like maybe out of like 15 or 20. And like you would have someone like Elam who is like having him on your team is like kind of like a debuff.
Detriment.
Yeah, because he just kind of like loses shit and starts shit. So like probably for Elam, we probably give him like a special case where it's like if you take him on your team, you get like +1 to your like salary cap or something like that. Like
yeah,
a negative
that makes
1.
sense. Yeah. No, I mean like having now played with Elam, like he was dude, I still am thinking of the last day when he just randomly grabbed a helicopter and crashed it, and I'm desperately trying to get food to all of our like little strongholds for the attack for like the final event, and I go and loot his body, and he just has like 3 stacks of 20 pumpkins on him, and I'm like why he genuinely griefed us. Love
Dude,
him, but
no,
he
you don't
griefed
understand. I was spectating, right? Every time I would spectate Elam, he would just be like starting shit or like doing something where it's just like a negative to the Lurklings. I'm just like, bro, like what the fuck is Elam doing?
So I will say there's one thing he genuinely made me salty about. I need to speak my piece here. Will, imagine this. Abe already knows. I've already told Abe about this. Will, imagine all of the Lurklings, because we had like 15 strong at one point. Imagine 15 of us riding, but all on horseback, Dothraki style, like through the kingdoms, like not actually necessarily fighting people, but just like, or like not on the final day even. I wanted to do this like halfway through the server. Us just like, like war cries, fucking flaming torches, 15 horses all going across the land would have looked sick, right?
Yeah.
This fucker would just take out horses. And then the thing is, he goes south. He takes out a horse, dies because he started shit with someone, dies, respawns naked, grabs another horse, takes it out, and never replaced them. And we just lose all of our horses.
Well, there was this one specific situation where I like swapped POVs to Blau and Elam. Because I wanted to see what they were doing, right? And I see Blau role playing with 4 other Lurklings. So there's 5 of them total, right? They're role playing, and Blau's like getting ready to set out on the horses. They have 5 horses total, and there's 5 Lurklings. Elam respawns at the Lurkling encampment naked, just like goes, "Oh, hey guys, like what's going on?" But doesn't like say anything. He's just like in a hurry, grabs one of the 5 horses, runs out, and then you hear a landmine get set off.
And he killed the fucking horse.
That's awesome.
And then Blau's,
every clip I saw of Elam when he was dying.
Dude, Blau's just like trying to like after he was like, okay, let's set out, and then like he turns around, he looks at the horses, he's like, wait, did Elam just take one of our 5 horses? And then he realized he can't set out as 5 anymore because of what just happened.
That's so awesome. I mean, that's good RP.
So funny.
Fuck Elam.
But yeah, I feel like a kind of like a salary cap system would actually help with balancing so much, and I think it would be like a perfect system to balance the kingdom so that like no kingdom can have like too many Rust pros in it.
Yeah,
and the key is if it was themed and public.
Yeah.
So that like it's like you're like a Rust pro like Captain's like, I don't know, if you're keeping with the fantasy, it's like they're a legendary warrior, and then like I don't know, like you're at 2, it's like you're a fucking I don't know, a dirt peasant. I don't know, like
also the genius part about this system that I think is that like what we can do with this system is we can make it so like there's specific buffs and debuffs to people above like a specific number. So like we can say like, hey, like all the people that are 10 and above, we make it so there's limitations where they can't hold tier 3 weapons. Yeah. Or they can't fire tier 3 weapons. We can say like people that are like 2 or 3 and below, we can give them like double health or something.
I also think like one thing that's naturally going to happen is player buy-in and content buy-in. And what I mean by that is like every time we throw into these events, I think we try and poke and see how far we can take them. Like us doing events the way we did in the game this time that were like preordained was kind of new. And I think Face Punch will buy into that idea. And I think also players will buy into that idea where they're like, oh, this is possible. We can enable this. We can get excited about this if we do X, Y, and Z. And so I think that will also help with kind of the RP elements as we move on, is just companies and people buying in, and you know, we'll see how far we can take this in the future, but it's really been a lot of fun. And but we'll see. We'll get better at balancing. We'll get better at ranking. We'll get better at all of these things the more we do it, because there's not really a playbook for what we're doing right now.
Well, I've told Abe this, Will, but I mean, shaking off the dust of my game dev chops. I mean, listen, if I'm Face Punch, right? And again, like, don't get me wrong, like for the OG Rust players, I think they actually have the game, it's like they can still cater to the OG Rust players, still do some stuff. But if they really want to grow Rust, like, and actually make a meaningful growth, I would be looking to this kind of stuff, to these more like light role play or even heavy role play and RP servers, and like broadening Rust, where it's like, hey, Rust isn't just this niche giga sweaty PvP survival game. It's like actually Rust is now like a platform for open world gameplay, whether it's role play, creative building, like whatever it is. So if I'm Face Punch, I'm looking to invest more in this.
Yeah.
Abe, Will, any final listen, I told you guys we'd do a quick little hour. I know, Abe, you have games to go play. Abe, you're like in a lobby today.
No, I already told them to find the fill for me, but I do have some other shit that I had to get to.
Listen, I'll let you guys get about your days. Any final thoughts about Rust roleplay that you want to leave the people with? Some hot takes?
No hot take, but I am very excited about the future. I think I've always thought that Rust, was a game that had like an insane amount of potential, which is why we like keep going back to it. Also, the developers are like always like supportive and always lovely to work with. And yeah, just excited for the future.
Definitely echoing that sentiment. And I just huge thank you to Abe, because honestly, I never really saw myself as any kind of like administrator for something like this. Like, I've always had a lot of great content ideas, but they're usually for myself, and creating kind of a vehicle for other people was something that Abe thought I could do. And the first time he mentioned it, he was like, yeah, can you advise on this? I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, you could get anybody to do this, right? And then I kind of find it in myself. But it's been so much fun working with Abe, and hopefully we get very rich doing this in the future.
And by the way,
no, but beyond that, I hope that we can create more situations that people have a lot of fun and benefit from, because that's really the most gratifying part for us.
And by the way, I want to pause and just say it's really funny. Abe, I genuinely think, like, if I were the GTA servers, if I was NoPixel or Prodigy or any of these other NoPixel servers, I would literally look at how you do the Blood God stuff. Coming back to the start of this whole thing, I would look to how you roleplay the Blood God, and I would try to find ways to do that in those servers to basically lightly dungeon master people and give them, whether it's items, give them a role play. Like, there's even stuff where it's like, you give us role play moments where you drop fire on us for a sacrifice. Like, little things like that enhance the experience so much more. So I don't know. I actually think it's funny, Rust being a game all about like, fucking shooting and PvPing, weirdly is now generating, I think, some of the best role play. So
thank you. Well, dude, how cool would it be to do a hardcore GTA server, play your life, see how that plays out?
Okay, listen, Will, I need people, but before we do that, I need people to play characters in GTA roleplay.
True.
So I gotta get them to do that first,
True.
Please. Speaking of,
thanks so much for having us, Blau.
Thank you guys. Will, Abe, thank you guys so much for coming on Roleplay Podcast. Chat, you guys can, and anyone listening, you guys can find Roleplay Podcast at all the usual podcasting sites, Spotify, Amazon, etc. You can find Will at twitch.tv/Will Neff. You can find Abe at twitch.tv/Abe. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.